Well, to discuss this in more detail, I'm joined now on the line from Brussels by our correspondent, Dave Keating. Dave, first of all, do we know what's to come out of these meetings, both yesterday and today?
Well, today's defense ministers' meeting is being held in Slovenia. It's today and tomorrow. Slovenia holds the rotating presidency of the EU Council of Ministers. They, of course, are going to be talking about what's next militarily. Of course, this was a NATO mission. All NATO troops have pulled out of the country, but there is this idea floating around, notably led by Paris, of establishing a safe zone, at least around Kabul airport and maybe even to the north where there are pockets of resistance against the Taliban. Now, yesterday, there was an interior ministers meeting where they talked about possible refugee surge coming from Afghanistan. Now, EU Home Affairs Commissioner Ylva Johansson said there's no sign of any such surge yet, but they don't know what's coming in the weeks and months ahead, so they have to be prepared for all scenarios. And they agreed yesterday to give an indeterminate amount of money to Afghanistan's neighbors to hold the refugees, to take care of them and make sure the refugees don't go on to Europe. That sounds very much like the controversial deal that the EU made with Turkey to keep migrants there and stop them from coming toward Europe. So I expect that's going to get a lot of pushback. We don't know exactly how much money they've set aside, but the figure has been reported as 1 billion euros.
Now, Dave, there has been some tension recently in the transatlantic relationship between European countries and the United States. Do we have any idea whether that's coming up as well during these defense ministers' talks today and tomorrow?
For sure. Alongside this defense ministers meeting, there's a security forum happening there in Bled, Slovenia, the Bled Security Forum, where they are talking about just this issue. The criticism of NATO, questions about whether NATO is really an alliance between countries or actually an American military protectorate in which Washington tells European countries what to do. Well, that idea got a lot of backing with the events in Afghanistan. Even the most strongest conservative Atlanticists in Europe are now questioning NATO. Now, NATO's Deputy Secretary General is speaking at the Bled Security Forum, and he has a lot of explaining to do about why this alliance is still fit for the 21st century. But we are getting a renewed push for EU military and security cooperation. This morning, European Council President Charles Michel said that the EU needs to get cracking on having a common defense policy. NATO and Washington are wary of that because they're afraid that that will make NATO irrelevant. But France has been pushing for this idea for a long time, and the events in Afghanistan are really giving this credence. Some call this an EU army. That's not really what the idea is. The idea is coordinating the national armies, kind of creating a NATO for Europeans without the United States. And of course, there is no NATO army. There would not be an EU army, but there would be coordination. So they will be talking about that both at that conference and at the ministerial meeting.
All right, Dave Keating in Brussels, thanks very much indeed.